Shadows of Corussant, A Jedi's Pursuit. Chapter 1. The Fall of Nellan. Coruscant, center of the Republic, a sprawling metropolis where towering skyscrapers reach toward the stars. Yet beneath the surface, deep in the labyrinthine streets of Level 1313, lay a world far removed from the shining light above. A world where crime and poverty thrived in the shadows. And it was in these shadows that the Jedi Knight Anen Solan now found himself, staring down at the broken body of Nellan. Anen had seen death before, especially during the war. But this was different. Mara, a human woman known to frequent the lower levels, had been found brutally murdered in a narrow alley behind a dilapidated cantina. Her throat was slashed, and her body bore cuts that were far too deliberate, too precise, to be the work of a random act of violence. The fear that had gripped the lower levels of Coruscant since her death was palpable, an invisible shroud that no one could shake. Jedi Knight Tamree knelt beside the body, her green-skinned fingers tracing the air above the wounds without touching. Her eyes narrowed as she analyzed the scene, her mind searching for answers. "These cuts," Tamree said, her voice soft but heavy with meaning. "They were made with precision, not by a lightsaber or blaster, but by something sharper, more refined." Anen stood nearby, his arms crossed as he extended his senses through the Force, using Force Echo, feeling the remnants of terror still lingering in the space. Mara's final moments replayed in brief flashes through his mind. Panic, pain, the cold darkness of death. He focused harder, trying to pull out any trace of the killer, but found only shadows. "Whoever did this wanted to send a message," Anen murmured, his brow furrowed. "This wasn't a quick kill. They made her suffer." Tamree rose to her feet, her expression unreadable. "The local authorities are calling it an isolated incident, but we both know better." Anen nodded. "This isn't random." Nellan was well known in the underworld, a woman who had carved out a place for herself amidst the lawlessness of the lower levels. But despite her reputation, she wasn't the kind of person anyone would expect to draw this kind of violence. Anen's gaze drifted to the flickering neon signs above the alley, casting eerie reflections on the damp, stained walls. The people who inhabited Level 1313 were hardened, accustomed to danger and cruelty. But the way Mara had been killed was sending ripples of fear through the streets. Whoever had done this was something more dangerous than the usual thugs. Hours later, in the Jedi Temple, Anen stood in the archives, poring over ancient records of dark side users, assassins and criminals who had terrorized Coruscant in the past. There were stories of cults that once practiced ritualistic killings, of ancient Sith whose cruelty knew no bounds, but nothing that fit this case exactly. He sighed, running a hand through his short hair. Whoever this killer was, they weren't following the ways of the Sith. But they were cold, deliberate, and dangerous. Tamree entered the archives, her expression somber. "I spoke with some of the local informants. No one's willing to give up names, but the fear down there is real. They're calling the killer the Shadow Butcher." Anen clenched his fists. "They're right to be afraid. Nellan was just the first." Tamree looked at him, her eyes searching his face. "Do you think they'll strike again?" Anen stared at the distant lights of Coruscant's upper levels, his mind already thinking of the next move. "I know they will." As the two Jedi prepared for what was to come, the shadows of Coruscant deepened, and somewhere in the labyrinth of Level 1313, a killer waited for their next victim. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the galaxy far, far away. If you enjoyed this tale, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. For more exclusive content and to support the channel, check out my Ko-Fi page at ko-fi.com/tales from the Holocron. May the Force be with you always.